Today's tour will be about the various monuments and commemorations we have here in Ganawage in the community. Quebec Bridge, actually we have two or three commemorations in the community for the Quebec Bridge. The most recent, of course, is the most well-known. That's the 2007 monument that's along the water, the recreation bay along the bike path. It's a beautiful commemoration that was worked on to mark the 100th anniversary of the Quebec Bridge disaster in 1907. Large event and series of events that were held to commemorate that. It's a beautiful monument if you go by. Going back to 1907, back when the Quebec Bridge disaster happened, when you think about it, it was huge. It became a huge impact on the community. Of course, 33 men from Ganawage died. I believe there were 76 men more who passed away from that. At that time, the men from the community had just begun to be involved in the ironworking trade. The trade itself was relatively new and was likely bringing in a fair amount of economic benefits to the community. So when that happened, my understanding is that the community was in shock and so on. And then the question after that was, there were still men that were in the trade. How did they want to continue? And as I've been told, the woman at the time knew that it was still important to the economic, well-being of the community at the time. So they said, we don't want this event to happen again. So the woman told the men who were remaining to work, who were continuing to work, they said to them, you have to not all be together. We don't want you all on one job as that had been. So they put in, they ordered them, I guess, as you would say, to, go outward, go outside. So that was sort of the beginning of men going out, booming out, as they call it, to Boston, Philadelphia at the time, and maybe later even further west and all over the world. So that was the time, and it changed our history socially, economically, and whatnot, So that was what the Quebec Bridge really had a big impact, along with the economic shock on the community. If you go along the community right next to the Mohawk Legion branch, 219 is what gets people attention. Often is the large, someone call it a tank. It's actually a 155 millimeter howitzer. It's, I guess, a commemoration that was put in place, if you want to call it a monument, I guess, approximately 10 years ago. There really is to help commemorate all of the past members, male and female, of Branch 219, who served in different forces throughout the years. That itself is a recent addition to the monuments around the community. It's quite eye-catching for anyone passing by. Tied into that, if you go right into the village itself, you'll see the central area. You'll see the cenotaph, which again is located in the center part of the community. That one is also related to the flagpoles that are there. We have the 3 flagpoles, of course, with the Five Nations Confederacy, if you want to call a flag there, along with the Canadian and American flags. That's been there for certainly 70 years, used obviously when the Remembrance Day ceremonies occur, and that's the site where all of their ceremonies, like laying of the wreaths, etc., occur. Right next to it is the more recent addition, I believe was 2012, which was the 200th anniversary of the War of 1812. That one commemorates the involvement of the people from this community and of Ganawage, their involvement of the war in 1812, which was a very significant battle at that time. When you read history books that are out there, talk about how it was a conflict of Upper and Lower Canada at that time. There was no Canada as a country at the time. It was actually the British, and it was a conflict where the United States attempted to move into Canada and attempted to make Canada into a 14th colony at the time. So what really occurred though was that conflict ranged mostly from places like Niagara Falls all the way to nearby right here in Chateauguay, near Chateauguay. One of the things I was talking about earlier about the Quebec Bridge, there was a couple of other, I guess you want to call it commemorations in the community tied into that. Agenda of the older village, the village as we know it, one near the tunnel and one at the top of the hill there were by Garunia Nuha, one of our schools. There are 2 iron crosses that are there, and my understanding again is that those were put up earlier in the last century, mid to early in the last century, to commemorate again before the large monument that was put up more recently. Those were put up to commemorate the men who were lost with the Quebec Bridge and the tradition of ironworking in the community.